once again, word of the world's most infamous pirate echoes across the seas. Feared by his enemies and admired by his friends, the outlaw, the buccaneer, the legend, Captain Redbeard.
Captain, someone's just told me a secret. The Iron Ram will leave Port Royal with a great treasure on him.
What do I care? Governor Broadside's flagship is invincible.
Only in a fair fight, but you would never do that.
No, I wouldn't. Gold, you say? All hands on deck. Set the sails.
From Eldorado Fortress to John Silver Island, one daring pirate stalks his targets with unparalleled stealth and cunning.
Not so loud, Captain. Your pig leg rattles loud enough to wake half the town.
Rattling? What are you talking about? I never rattle. I practically hover over the ground.
Yes, they're all here. The beautiful Camilla, the greedy Governor Broadside, and clever Bosun Will.
Pirates!
You have my leave to carry on, Governor. Just tell me where Camilla is.
In the cabin.
Thanks, old boy. That's all I wanted to know.
I am not your old boy.
No, but of course, to a lowly pirate like me, you would be Your Honor. See you later, old boy.
But that's outrageous. Stop him! Stop him!
Camilla, what are you doing on my ship?
Bosun Will has kidnapped me from my fiancé, Governor McGare. He is a despicable man, so that suits me just fine.
By holy Neptune, Will, you doomed us all. Either of the governor's ships could send us to the bottom of the sea.
All will brave the dangers of the tropical sea in search of the mysterious treasure.
Of all the pirates who sailed the seas during the golden age of piracy, from dark-eyed Kate Putnam to Captain Archibald, one name stands out as the most notorious and influential buccaneer in history, Captain Redbeard. His career was longer than any other pirate. He captured hundreds of ships and won, lost, hunted, and hid vast fortunes over his lifetime. His list of friends was short and his list of enemies long, though they intertwined so much that it was often hard to tell whose side he was on. In this 8-part Brick Lore documentary series, we'll piece together lore from the Lego sets, comics, audio dramas, and video games to tell the story of one of the most beloved figures in Lego history, Captain Redbeard. After years of wallowing in the shadow of his former glory, Captain Redbeard's reputation was again on the rise. Redbeard's dramatic return of the tax money embezzled from the citizens of Sabatina by the corrupt Governor Broadside was the talk of the tropical sea. Redbeard had yet to fully appreciate his newfound status, as he would have just as soon kept the tax money for himself, had his bosun, Will, not used it as a diversionary tactic to save the entire crew of the Black Sea's Barracuda. What Redbeard could appreciate was the disgrace of his arch-enemy, Governor Broadside. He was delighted when the elderly Peter, the man who had set Redbeard on the Golden Medallion adventure, brought news from Port Royal that rumors of Broadside's theft of Imperial tax money had reached the Imperial homeland. As a result, 3 inspectors were expected to arrive soon from Europe to investigate Broadside's corrupt administration. The wily old pirate couldn't wait to see the governor exposed and thrown in jail. If Broadside had been removed from office and exposed as a thieving despot, Redbeard may have been content to remain a minor folk hero and rogue. More importantly, life might have improved for the Imperial settlers in the region. But the destiny of the tropical sea was inextricably tied to affairs of the heart. Will was desperately in love with Broadside's niece, Camilla. If Broadside was actually removed from office, his family would be caught up in the scandal and recalled to Europe. Even though Will had been the one behind exposing Broadside's greed in the first place, he wasn't about to let that happen. The front-runner for the governor's post should Broadside fall was Lieutenant de Martinet, Broadside's right-hand man. While the pirates knew de Martinet to be a coward in personal combat, he was fanatically dedicated to destroying the pirates, especially after the loss of the golden loot and the pirates' escape from Port Royal. Will managed to convince the pirates that the lazy, corrupt Broadside should remain in power, reminding them all of the threat that de Martinet posed. Will's argument had weight. All of the pirates, even the notoriously untrustworthy Captain Fowl, agreed to halt their raids until after the inspectors had left. This would give Broadside a chance to save face by presenting an image of a safe, well-run colony, free of piracy. Will was right to worry about De Martinet. The lieutenant had taken it upon himself to discover the hidden pirate city on Forbidden Island and had managed to infiltrate not just the pirate ranks, but the very meeting Will had organized to discuss Broadside's fate. De Martinet was discovered at the meeting by Popsy and Jimbo and barely escaped with his life.
Lieutenant! Help! Imperial spy!
With their hidden stronghold revealed, the Buccaneers' only hope was to follow Will's plan to pause their pirating so that Broadside wouldn't feel the need to risk moving against them while the inspectors were at Sabattina. Redbeard and Will snuck into Port Royal to keep an eye on the situation, going in disguise to meet with Camilla. She explained that Broadside had responded to the inspector's accusations of theft by blaming the pirates instead. Fortunately, to make himself seem capable, the governor also claimed that he had destroyed every last pirate in the tropical sea. This put Broadside in an impossible situation, as 4 treasure ships with gold from the mainland were due to arrive soon. He couldn't act on De Martinet's recent intelligence and deploy his soldiers to wipe out the pirates or to protect the gold ships without revealing his deception to the inspectors. While this proved to be the perfect window for Will's plan, it was pure torture for Redbeard, who now knew that 4 treasure ships would be in Port Royal in just a few days, but could do nothing about it. Worst yet, De Martinet discovered their meeting and shot Redbeard's peg leg out from under him. Camilla distracted the lieutenant long enough for the pirates to escape. They couldn't go far. Fortunately, Skip, the banana vendor he had met during the Golden Medallion adventure, agreed to hide them in his shop. Redbeard promised that De Martinet would pay for the indignity. The next day, Broadside toured Port Royal with De Martinet and the Imperial inspectors. They happened to pass by Skip's banana stand where Redbeard and Will were carving a replacement peg leg. De Martinet had begrudgingly gone along with Broadside's lie after Broadside had threatened to demote him, but seeing 2 notorious pirates out in the open was too much for the lieutenant. He attempted to alert the inspectors to the pirates, only to see Broadside greet Redbeard as a wounded pirate hunter. Redbeard played along perfectly, greeting his longtime enemy as a close friend. De Martinet was beside himself with rage. Redbeard could tell that De Martinet was a threat to the impromptu conspiracy and arranged for Will and Rummy to kidnap the loyal soldier. De Martinet found himself locked in a chest and delivered to Captain Fowl, who delighted in tormenting the officer. The lieutenant's disappearance was suspicious to the inspectors, and the whole plan nearly ended in disaster when Broadside decided to attack Forbidden Island anyway. Will saved the day as usual by dumping De Martinet in a Port Royal tavern. Satisfied that De Martinet was an unreliable officer, the inspectors left with the gold ships. This introduced a new balance of power in the tropical sea. To the Imperial Crown, Governor Broadside now appeared to be a hero who had rid the area of pirates. The pirates could be assured that their city on Forbidden Island and their way of life would be tolerated as long as Broadside remained in power. Broadside and the pirates separately agreed on maintaining the same elaborate fiction. There were no pirates in the tropical sea. But not every Bluecoat went along with this arrangement. De Martinet was now a more dangerous foe than ever. He had been humiliated, betrayed by his superior, and thanks to Redbeard and the pirates, he was never going to be governor now. Will's relationship with Camilla had proved to be the pirates' preservation, but it also introduced new complications and frequently brought the Black Sea's Barracuda back into danger. Redbeard again found himself to be an unwitting third party to Camilla and Will's relationship when the bosun tricked Redbeard into sneaking into Port Royal in an attempt to disrupt Camilla's enforced engagement to Governor McGair, governor of John Silver Island, north of Sabattina. Governor McGair was extremely wealthy thanks to the silver mines of the northern colonies. Broadside was hoping McGair would be very generous in persuading him to allow his niece to be wed, little suspecting that McGair was hoping for an extremely large dowry from him. By the time Will rescued Camilla, the proposed alliance and engagement was in tatters thanks to the 2 greedy governors. This adventure nearly led to the pirates being captured again by Broadside and the Iron Ram near John Silver Island. Camilla was forced to leave Will behind in order to save the pirates from the combined might of McGair's ship Lucky Maiden and Broadside's Iron Ram. The Black Sea's Barracuda, mighty though she was still vulnerable when the Iron Ram was at sea. Sometime later, the Black Sea's Barracuda was nearly cornered by Broadside aboard the Iron Ram again as the pirates enjoyed some downtime from their usual activities. The Black Sea's Barracuda escaped into a convenient fog bank and managed to lose the Iron Ram. They returned to Forbidden Island to find the other pirate crews in a bad mood. The king was about to arrive on a state visit and Broadside's badge of office had gone missing. At the time, a governor who lost his badge risked losing his position and might even be executed. Worse, the governor had decided that the pirates had taken the badge, which was why he had taken it upon himself to hunt them down. After the close call with the government inspectors, The pirates knew that a threat to Broadside was a threat to their livelihood and their existence. Whether it was due to this existential threat, a return of his long-dormant ambition, or simple luck, Redbeard seized the moment to rally the pirate captains. As usual, he was following Will's earlier lead, but when Redbeard demanded that his fellow captains band together to search for the badge and resolve the misunderstanding with Broadside, everyone listened, even Captain Foul. It may not have been the first time, but the pirates of Forbidden Island were acting as one, and it was Redbeard, not Will, who had made it happen. The only captain missing from his conference was Jonah, an infamously unlucky pirate who had blundered into Port Royal Harbor by mistake the week before. Will, putting two and two together with Anne's assistance, realized that the missing badge must be related to Jonah's unintentional voyage. When he told Redbeard this, the captain agreed to find Jonah's ship. 3 days later, they found Jonah's schooner Hesperus undergoing repairs thanks to a freak accident with a whale. Will quickly found the missing badge in the barrel of Jonah's pet jackdaw Diogenes. Will and Anne smuggled the badge back into Port Royal, and Broadside was able to greet the king when he arrived. The visit was a success and allowed Broadside to prove once more that he was a respectable, capable governor in the eyes of the crown. The king even awarded him a medal. The king, meanwhile, had his own reasons for visiting the area. What was unknown at the time was that the king had hidden millions of dollars worth of treasure on a deserted island in the area. It's possible that he used this state visit as cover in order to hide this treasure. Why a head of state would go to such lengths is unknown, but his choice of a hiding place is logical. Thanks to Broadside and the pirates' successful deception, the crown believed that the tropical sea had been rid of pirates entirely, and was therefore the safest place in the empire to hide the treasure. This misconception was to have drastic consequences for the entire region. This was also a pivotal moment for Redbeard, as he had proven that he still had what it took to rally the pirates of Forbidden Island, even without Will's direct intervention. With Broadside content to leave the pirates alone once more, they had no one to fight but each other. After Redbeard participated in a particularly enjoyable tavern brawl with Foul and his crew, one that nearly destroyed the keg and cutlass, he found that Boatswain Will had gone missing. The young man later turned up on a sailboat out of Port Royal, and after hailing the Black Sea's Barracuda, revealed that Foul had started the brawl to keep him from receiving a message from Camilla. Camilla had found Culverin sneaking into Eldorado Fortress in order to steal a map to La Scaletta, Skeleton Island. The map had been made by Brother Jeremias, the old monk who had instructed Will before he joined the pirates. While the monk had refused to fully decipher it, the name on the map was William Gordon Frederick Cavendish, Will's father. It contained instructions to be on the island on August 15th at 5 o'clock, which, as it happened, was the next day. Will demanded to know the truth about his father's fate. Redbeard tried to lie about recognizing Cavendish's name. He was intrigued at the possibility that the map might lead to treasure, however, and agreed to set course to Skeleton Island. After traveling to Skeleton Island, Will and Redbeard were able to find Cavendish's treasure by following a beam of sunlight that appeared through a specific rock formation at 5 o'clock. The hidden chest held not gold, but all the evidence needed to clear Cavendish's name. Will finally forced Redbeard to reveal his father's past. Redbeard told him everything, that Foul had framed Will's father for crimes he himself had committed, which was what had led Broadside to order his father's execution long ago. Foul's Barracuda was in fact Will's inheritance. Will was furious that Redbeard had kept the truth from him for so long, and the two argued. Redbeard returned to the ship with the chest at Will's request, so that the boatswain could think. Will joined him an hour later, after encountering both Foul and Governor Broadside on the island. Broadside had read the documents exonerating Will's father, though Foul had attacked the governor and destroyed the evidence. Will vowed to take revenge on Foul and take back the Barracuda. He was in good enough spirits that he allowed Redbeard to keep the single piece of treasure from his father's chest, a handful of pearls that the captain had attempted to take without Will's knowledge, though Popsy revealed what he had done.
Beef! That's not yours!
Was it simple greed that led Redbeard to take the pearls? They were worth a fortune, but Redbeard also alluded to other secrets of Will's past, secrets unrelated to Will's parents that he would keep to himself, for now. After the voyage to Skeleton Island, Redbeard's relationship to Will changed. He was able to talk of Will's father and their friendship openly, and finally lay claim to the title of foster father, though true to his nature it was usually to manipulate Will into doing something that he wanted. For Broadside's part, the unjust execution of a fellow countryman played upon him enough to clear William Cavendish's name. Faint stirrings of something like a guilty conscience were beginning to take hold on Broadside, though his darkest deeds were still to come. When he learned that the Spanish galleon Madonna would be sailing through the Black Reef on her way to Spain, laden with one of the largest cargoes of gold ever to travel through the tropical sea, the temptation of easy riches proved too much to resist for Governor Broadside. The iron ram intercepted the Madonna under the cover of night, firing a series of warning shots to alert her. In what he would later claim was an unfortunate accident, the first shot struck the Madonna, and the two ships exchanged fire until the Madonna was boarded by Broadside's forces. Broadside claimed that he only wished to warn the Spanish captain of the ever-present pirate threat. This was a particularly thin cover story, since Broadside had otherwise held to the line that there were no pirates in his domain. Due to the damage the galleon had sustained, Broadside generously offered to escort her safely to Port Royal. Of all of Broadside's schemes, this was the boldest and most dangerous yet. The governor, now twice shielded from removal by the pirates, had allowed his apparent security to push him to ever greater extremes to satisfy his greed. Since Broadside's imperial homeland was not at war with Spain, he had effectively become a pirate himself. Broadside wasn't the only one after the Madonna and her cargo. Redbeard had bought the time and route the Madonna was expected to take from Magpie McMoney. Magpie owned one of the largest establishments on Forbidden Island, a general store that sold everything from gunpowder to jewelry. He had a thriving side business trading in information as well. Redbeard was witness to Broadside's attack as he lay in wait for the Madonna, but he couldn't identify the attacker in the darkness. Redbeard assumed the other vessel was Fowl's Barracuda. Enraged, the captain returned to Forbidden Island to make Magpie pay for selling the information to another pirate. On the beach at Forbidden Island, Will ran across a shipwrecked survivor of the attack on the Madonna, Don Carlos, who had been thrown overboard. He revealed the truth of Broadside's involvement and asked Redbeard to help retrieve the ship and cargo. After some negotiation, Redbeard agreed to help the Spaniard for half of the Madonna's gold. Redbeard wasn't motivated out of a sense of duty to a fellow Spaniard or even his usual greed. In his eye, Broadside had snatched his own prize out from under him, and his pirate honor demanded that he respond to this insult in kind. Redbeard brought the Black Sea's Barracuda to Port Royal and sent Will, Rummy, and a few other pirates in secret to the city. Through Skip and Camilla, Redbeard and Will learned that the situation had grown far more complicated. The prince himself was due to arrive in Port Royal in a few days. This had caught Broadside completely off guard, as he had no reason to expect another call from the royal family so soon after the last visit. Broadside would now have to make the Spanish gold, prisoners, and galleon disappear quickly in order to avoid being tried as a pirate himself. Broadside planned to replace the heavy lead ballast of the iron ram with the gold from the Madonna, using the Spanish prisoners to make the switch. He would then try and execute the prisoners for piracy and sink the Madonna. Broadside dismissed any guilt he had at a new round of unjust executions by reasoning that he had been forced into it. Thanks to another ingenious plan from Will, the pirates were able to work with the Spanish prisoners to switch the ballast back out for the gold as the transfer was being made. Redbeard then led the pirates in an attack to free the prisoners, allowing them to escape on the galleon. Redbeard escorted the Madonna back to Forbidden Island to make repairs, but Will was left behind on Sabatina while hiding from Bluecoat soldiers. Redbeard spent 3 days worrying that his bosun had been captured, but just as the galleon was about to leave, Will returned with news from Port Royal. The prince had been tipped off about Broadside's plans and inspected the ballast of the iron ram personally. Broadside was both relieved and enraged when he found out that the gold was gone. Will left detailed accounts of the pirates' actions behind for both the governor and the entire population of Port Royal to read. Don Carlos returned to Spain to spread the news to Europe. Soon, Broadside was made a laughingstock in both the Old World and the New. He remained governor only because there was no evidence left of his crime. Meanwhile, Redbeard's exiled son, Captain Nobeard, and Redbeard's daughter, Miss Dagger, were making a name for themselves in the Pacific. Their band, the Nobeard Pirates, were known to haunt the area around the Muertes Archipelago, also known as the Five Deaths. Nobeard amassed a fortune in gold doubloons, presumably captured from Spanish treasure ships sailing from nearby Isla Montanceros. Nobeard hid the treasure on Isla Nublar, under the volcano Mount Saibo. Nobeard made a map to help him find his way back, but he never returned to recover the treasure. After years of being a disappointment to his father, the once baby-faced captain was now showing distinct signs of stubble. As any facial hair was a clear violation of the tenets of the Nobeard Pirates, it seems likely that this forced him to lead the Nobeard Pirates behind. While the treasure map of No-Beard would become the stuff of legends, we can only speculate what happened to the man himself. It's possible that having finally achieved what his father had always wanted for him, the prodigal son considered returning home to the tropical sea. Meanwhile, Redbeard was facing tensions with his own crew. After many days at sea, the only prizes they had taken were a fishing boat and a spice ship. With supplies running low, even Redbeard's newfound fondness for fish was being tested as Flash Fork's endless variations on pepper and herring made the crew restless and angry. Finally, Redbeard spotted an Imperial convoy headed for Port Royal, and the captain gave the order to attack. But Boatswain Will refused, since the Black Sea's Barracuda was badly outnumbered, and Governor Broadside's powerful flagship Iron Ram was protecting the convoy. As the two pirates argued, the convoy changed course for the Imperial trading post at Penzance. Redbeard was still determined to attack Penzance, but this was a risky venture. Penzance was well protected by the fortified Imperial trading post, which was so well guarded that no pirate had ever set foot inside. Will quickly thought up another plan. While the trading post was secure, it was easy for the pirates to sneak into Penzance itself. The pirates would disguise themselves, get hired on one of the merchant ships in the convoy, and hijack the ship once they were out of port. Redbeard was so pleased with this idea that he decided to go into the town himself, along with Will. The Black Sea's Barracuda hid in a bay near Shark Island while Will and Redbeard went ashore in Penzance. Here they happened upon Broadside and D. Martinet again, and Redbeard overheard that the brigantine Sea Lion II had been ordered to stay close to the flagship. To Redbeard, this indicated that the smaller ship carried a valuable cargo indeed. The fact that it was named after the king's personal flagship would have made the vessel even more desirable. Will wanted to stay as far away from Broadside as possible, likely knowing how angry the governor would be after having his part in the capture of the Madonna made public. Redbeard overruled Will by knocking the boatswain unconscious and signing them both onto the Sea Lion II. Redbeard's plan hit a small hitch when Will dove overboard to help a stranded boy whose fishing boat had capsized. They were nearly eaten by a shark, but fortunately Redbeard was able to commandeer a cannon and save both of them without blowing their cover. That night, Redbeard and Will managed to knock out the captain, lock the crew in the hold, and sail the Sea Lion II to the bay where the Black Sea's Barracuda lay in wait. Here they found out that the cargo of the Sea Lion II was herring and pepper. It had been ordered to stick close to the Iron Ram only because it had been taking on water. Redbeard's men almost mutinied after hearing the news. Worse, the Iron Ram had followed the Sea Lion II after she had left the convoy and was now headed toward the Black Sea's Barracuda. The pirates were left with nowhere to hide until Kothu, boy Will rescued, stepped in to help. He showed the pirates how to navigate to his home island, the mysterious, mist-shrouded land known as the Island of Fogs. Redbeard was thankful, but baffled to find an entire city of Aztecs living on the island, descendants of refugees from the Spanish conquest of their empire centuries before. This group of Aztecs used a clever device to shroud their island home in a perpetual fog, preventing any outsiders from arriving. They attempted to keep Redbeard and his crew there, knowing that they might lead others back to their secret island. Unfortunately, the Iron Ram had followed the Black Sea's Barracuda past the fog. Broadside's greed immediately surfaced, and he was determined to capture the Aztec city for himself. Predictably, Redbeard had already tried to escape with the Aztecs' gold by the time Broadside launched his attack. Will quickly came up with a plan that resulted in the destruction of the Iron Ram. Redbeard was allowed to leave after swearing never to reveal the island's secrets. Will and Redbeard never spoke of their visit to the Aztec city again, but it wouldn't be their last visit to this enchanted island. He left Broadside and his men adrift in 2 longboats after bargaining the last of their pepper and herring for a valuable chest of gold Broadside was carrying. Again, the governor was left empty-handed and furious. This wasn't the last time Broadside found himself in such a predicament. After seeing the undiscovered riches of the Island of Fogs, Broadside continued to explore the surrounding islands in search of treasure. During one expedition, he discovered Sabre Island, which would soon be home to a new Bluecoat fort to aid in the defense of Port Royal. But his other ventures were less fortunate, and he was soon caught up in Redbeard's rivalry with Captain Fowl in a treasure hunt on an island in shark-infested waters. After Fowl captured Jimbo and almost made him walk the plank, the cabin boy surrendered a treasure map he had been carrying. This led Fowl to a hidden treasure cave and a showdown with Redbeard. The pirates also ambushed the Bluecoats, the flashwork leading the charge. Ultimately, Broadside's ship was wrecked in a storm, leaving the governor and D. Martinet adrift again with only fish for sustenance. The destruction of the Iron Ram at the Island of Fogs altered the balance of power in the tropical sea. The mighty ship had been a deterrent to the pirates time and time again, but its loss left a hole in Broadside's naval forces. As the Crown already suspected Broadside had been using the ship for his own purposes, and since the tropical sea was supposed to be rid of pirates anyway, a replacement warship wasn't likely to be assigned anytime soon. Broadside was forced to rely on smaller ships, like the Caribbean Clipper, to defend the colonies. Before the Madonna affair, Redbeard and Broadside had an uneasy balance of power, each outwardly opposing the other, but also ensuring their positions remained secure. Now, Broadside's repeated humiliations by Redbeard and Will had pushed the governor to the breaking point. It would only take a small spark to ignite the conflict between Redbeard and Broadside. On one of the outlying islands, just such a spark was about to be lit.